Every Nigerian is a stakeholder in Nigeria's democracy. This public hearing is a testament to the Senate's unwavering belief that truth emerges not from silence, but from dialogue, not from monologue, but from the aggregation of honest opinions. That is why we are here, not as party men, that we are not here as party men and women, but we are here as patriots, not as political actors, but as nation builders. The demand of this moment is that we speak freely and boldly. Speak freely and boldly.
This zonal public hearing is not a mere procedural stop in legislative activity. It is in truth an important moment in our democratic journey. The scores of constitution alteration bills across 13 thematic areas, painstakingly curated by the Senate Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution, speak to some of the most urgent and persistent questions about the structure, efficiency, equity, and future of our federal union.
Our committee's work represents the collaborative effort with our esteemed colleagues in both the House of Assembly, both the House of Representatives and the Senate of Assembly. To achieve the vital constitutional reform we seek, we must unite and work in harmony. I'm encouraged by numerous national and state legislators present today, all of whom share a common vision. Our collaboration will not end with this public hearing together. We will enhance our contribution to produce outcomes that resonate with national consensus, always prioritizing the interest of our citizens.
Welcome back. Before we kickstarted this conversation and you watched that package on the Constitution review, I did tell you that this review is ongoing across regions. I'd like to announce for the benefit of the viewer that the one for the Southwest will be taking place in Enugu. Southeast, I beg your pardon. The South, Ikorekbene, Jos will be for the North Central, Maiduguri for the Northeast, and Kano for the Northwest. Of course, our correspondent Jennifer Pius, my co-host, they talk about the fact that that was shifted to honor the late elder statesman who just passed on, Dan Tata. And this Constitution review process is ongoing. Today is day 2. In the course of this conversation, we will connect with Jennifer Pius so she can brief us on how it's going on day 2. But joining the conversation this morning, I have 2 guests. First off, in the house with me, I have a political scientist. We've hosted him several times on topical issues, and he has provided very, very valuable analysis to these issues. Joining us this morning is Dr. Jude Onwuhanze. Good morning to you, Dr. Jude. Great to have you.
Good morning.
And also joining us virtually all the way from Delta State is Barrister Emmanuel Ehere. Good morning to you, Barrister. Welcome.
Good morning, my brothers, and good morning, viewers.
Barrister, I'd like to begin the conversation with you before we come to our guest in the studio. The ongoing Constitution review, the one for the South started in Akwa Ibom in Ikorekbene yesterday. Several topical issues were discussed. In fact, dominating most of the conversation was the issue of state creation. I'd like to begin by asking you, should we be talking about reviewing the Constitution or having a brand new Constitution, as some are saying?
Well, thank you very much for that question, whether we should be having a brand new Constitution or a review of the Constitution. I think, in my opinion, the power to make laws are vested with the National Assembly at the federal level and the State House of Assembly at the state level. And Section 4 is explicit on such vestation of powers. on both the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly. Now, with respect to review of the Constitution, this is not the first time the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended have been altered or reviewed, as the case may be. As it is presently, the Constitution has been reviewed or altered 5 times. We have for the first alteration to the 5th alteration on various items or provisions that are to the interest and benefit of the entire citizens of Nigeria. It's a welcome development, and I believe that the clamor for this review is born out of the fact that there are certain issues, burning issues that need to be addressed in the interest of Nigerians. Now, if you look at it very well, Section 14, Sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution gives the government the power to ensure that the security and welfare of its citizens are their primary purpose of government. So if that is their purpose, every amendment to the Constitution should reflect that particular purpose, first and foremost. Now, there are various items in the highlights of the proposals that have been sent to the National Assembly for which public hearing have commenced in the various parts of the 6 geopolitical zones, which was scheduled for 2 days, just 2 days for public hearing on proposals for the amendment of the 1999 Constitution. And top amongst all these proposals are state creation or local government creation. Then we have a judicial reform, state policing, electoral reforms, and a host of others. Now, I think at this stage of Nigeria, the top amongst all these proposals should have been the state policing or creation of other agencies.
No, yeah, I was going to ask you to spare me a moment. Our correspondent, my co-host, is currently there to give us some heads up on what's happening. We'll come back to you, Barrister Hiri, all the way from Ughelli Delta State. Just hold on. Let's bring our correspondent in. Jennifer Pius, good morning to you, Jennifer.
Good morning, Ike. It's a lovely morning here in Ikorekpene, and it's the second day of the Constitution Review public hearing, and we've gotten to hear a number of propositions, a number of submissions have been made concerning different amendments for the Constitution. And top on the list has been the state creation. And a number of persons have come up with proposals for creation of new states. One has gained so much traction, and that is the Anioma State. Anioma State, when they made the presentation yesterday, Anioma State got so many approvals, so many commendations from different people for the creation of Anioma State. But it is also worthy to note that in the South-South, there has been 31 proposals for state creation, and not just in Delta. We've also had from states in Edo, in Bayelsa, and Akwa Ibom. And also some of those states also were met with some oppositions, like the people who are requesting for Obolo State. There were a number of oppositions concerning the creation of Obolo State based on the grounds that the Ibibios are of the opinion that the Obolos can't create a state using their land. That's on one aspect. And there's also been some calls for the creation of Ogoja and a number of other requests. Also, there's been 18 requests for the establishment of local government areas and all of that. We have 3 local government areas from the South-South. And then for the South-South states, we have 6 proposals for state creation. And there are also some other issues which are discussion. And one of that has also been gender equality. And there's been the bill for reserve seats for women in the legislature, women sit in governance. And the talk has been the inclusion of women when it comes to political participation in governance. And so there has been requests for inclusion of women or with disabilities and also other women in having special seats reserved for them so they can have a voice. And they've made some requests, and the conclusion or from different the advocacy from different groups, different persons has been that women have not been given equal opportunity. They have, based on global standards and practices, there's been the push for more women in Nigeria's government, different spheres, different positions. And so that bill has been gaining some commendations from different societies, from different civil society groups, from different advocates and different personalities. We've also had the discussions on local government autonomy, which I had mentioned earlier, that there are in the South-South, 3 states are requesting, they are requesting for the establishment of 3 additional local government areas. Now, this is based on some of the proposals that have already been made, and understanding that this constitution review also captures new proposals for creation of more states and also establishment of new local government areas. So we're also looking at more entries for this angle as well. And we're also looking at aspects of electoral reforms. I'll talk about the African descent, which they had mentioned that they're looking those who have
Okay, we seem to have a bit of a network situation. Okay, can you hear me, Jennifer? Okay, we will have to come back to our correspondent Jennifer Pius there to give us more update. The Constitution Day 2 is today, and it's ongoing in Ikot Ekpene as we speak. We were talking to Barrister Ehiri all the way from Ughelli, Delta State. I'd like for him to evolve his thoughts there because I had asked him to excuse us to bring in our correspondent. And then we come back to our guest in the studio. Let's come back to you, Barrister Ehiri from Delta State. You were talking something very fundamental about this state creation. Let's go back to where you start.
Okay, thank you very much. As I said earlier on, I said among the highlights of the proposals sent to the National Assembly with respect to the constitutional review is top list is the creation of states and local government areas, then state policing, gender equality, judicial reforms, electoral reforms, and inclusiveness of governance. While all these proposals are beautiful, I believe more emphasis should be dwelt on state policing, because currently this country is facing serious insurgency threats that citizens can no longer sleep peacefully at their homes. Now, that is on one breath. Secondly, citizens cannot even feed properly, eating 3 square meals a day. And the purpose of governance, as enshrined in Section 14, Sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution, said the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of its citizens. Now, if the security and welfare of its citizens are not put into consideration, every other discourse with respect to constitutional review cannot be practicable. Because one, who are those to enjoy the benefits of this review? Are those who are alive and those who are healthy and those who are capable of withstanding all these public hearings and all that. A man who is hungry cannot go to the public hearing and share his thoughts. And a man who is not secured cannot go to the public hearing, knowing fully well that if when he goes there on his way back, he's not safe. So the top priority among all the proposals should be that of the state, policing and other agencies that would, because the state police as it is, the Nigerian police as it is not strong enough to cover all the areas around Nigeria with respect to security. Hence why in other states you see that the Amoteco of the west and Ebo on the east and Hisba in northwest and other security efforts are established to see that they complement the effort of the Nigerian police, because the Nigerian police cannot be everywhere at any time. Now, the introduction of local vigilantes and all that, they should be given more force to ensure that every Nigerian go to their homes.
Barrister Ehiri, allow me to pause you for a moment. Let's get the thoughts of our guest in the studio. I'll come back to you. Just stay with us. Let's come to you, Dr. Jude Onwuhanze. I had asked him a question. This ongoing constitution review, topping the agenda has been the issue of state police, state creation. Everybody, you listened to Senator Adams Oshiomhole, everybody wants a piece of the cake, but people should be talking about baking the cake. For you as a Nigerian, How do you view this constitution review, and where would you want more emphasis placed?
Number one, let's look at the origin of 1999 Constitution, which actually precipitated the demand by the people. You could recall that the military gave us 1999 Constitution, which was not the agreement of the entire Nigerians.
It was a horrid document as we transitioned.
Not just hurry. It wasn't a broad-based constitution representing the interest of the whole Nigeria. Who are the people that sat down in one place and bring out the constitution and impose on Nigerians? And you could recall, even the politician that took over 1999 said they don't know anything about the constitution until after inauguration, or just few days before inauguration. The people that sat down to make this constitution, where are they from? Do they represent the broad base of Nigerians as we are seeing today in various regions? This constitution does not stem from the grassroots. It came from the top down. This is the moment Nigerians are trying to see if they will be able to have a constitution from the down to top. That is what you are witnessing today. And what are their needs? The needs they are looking at is that the imbalance in the state creation, the imbalance in local government's creation, the impossibility of Nigerian police taking care of our security. They have been overstretched by what is going on today. These are the reasons why people are clamoring for state policing, where they will be able to give their input on what is going on in Nigeria. Another area is the judicial reform, like the barrister rightly said, and the electoral reform. Because Nigerians are fed up of going to vote, and at the end of the day, they will be hearing stories. These are the issues that touch Nigerians that they want to reform. But unfortunately, the 1999 Constitution put a roadmap, a very big hurdle on the way to alter the Constitution. However, it is not insurmountable if the political class will be able to listen to the voice of the people.
Now, I'd like to pose the same question I asked Barrister Ahiri to you. There are people, I have had occasions to, host people on radio and talk about the issue of state constitution review. Many of my guests have not spared words in saying we should not be reviewing. You listened to Barrister Ahiri make his position on this matter. We should not be reviewing this constitution. We should be talking about a brand new constitution. Is that feasible?
You could recall President Jonathan attempted that in 2014 during the national conference, where a whole lot was done, almost 60 to 70% review or renewal of the constitution. It is practically difficult, I wouldn't say impossible, the way Nigeria is today. It is practically difficult to go into new constitution. It has been very difficult to even review, let alone throwing away the entire constitution and bringing new one. But if it is possible, the best thing for Nigerians is to have new constitution from the grassroots to the top. The constitution we are operating today were imposed on us by the military. And Nigerians were not represented in that seat. Various geopolitical zone and ethnic group in Nigeria, we are not on the table where this 1999 constitution were imposed on us. They were not there. This is the opportunity that the Senate, the National Assembly have given to Nigeria to air their views. You can see the anger, you can see the passion, the patriotism in their voices, asking, crying that nobody heard them for many years, and they want to be heard by the implementation of their views. This is the only way we have a new constitution. But I want to say that it is difficult to have new constitution. It is even difficult to implement what we are hearing today. Because Obasanjo tried it and it didn't work. Jonathan tried it didn't work. President President Buhari set up a committee, named a chairman, but that was the end of that committee for constitutional review until he left office. Let's see what will come out of that. I pray this one works.
I'll come back to you, both my guests, but let me go back to Ikot Ekpene, where our correspondent Jennifer Pius is still standing by to give us some updates before we come back to the studio. Jennifer, it's back to you. What's really going on day two? I was going to ask you, day one, how was the atmosphere like? Because we did see from the excerpt that it got a bit rancorous at some point. Tempers flared. How was the atmosphere of day one of the review?
Well, the atmosphere was a bit mixed, and that was mostly dependent on which presentation was up. And mostly when we had the Nigerian Labour Congress come up to make their proposal, the proposal comes against the backdrop that some persons are requesting that the Labour and waterways be removed from the executive legislative list and taken to the concurrent legislative list, which the Labour strongly opposed. And during their presentation, numbers of persons from the Nigerian Labour Congress were really airing their opinion concerning that particular issue. They're strongly opposing that bill and requesting that it be removed and let the Labour remain with the executive legislative bill. And some of the opinions aired, especially one from Senator Adams Oshomole, he mentioned that the Nigerian state has not gotten to a level where we can be discussing removing the Nigerian Labour Congress from the executive list. And he made mention of some scenarios which may not be very convenient, especially when it comes to payment of salaries, which is always the major concern. And apart from that, there were also some rancor when it came to the state creation for Obolo State. And some persons, especially those from the BBOs, had mentioned that the Obolos do not have the right to create a state using their own land. And so that also brought in some rancors. But the Gender Equality Bill, when presentations were made and commendations were made, received so much applause from so many persons with disabilities, even the senators and the committee members that were also airing their opinion concerning the inclusion of women in governance. But that was not all the issues captured. Some other aspects on there has also been the proposal for each state to be represented in the state's legislative house of assembly, or each local government to be represented in the state's houses of assembly. And this way it is to take away issues of marginalization and also bring about cases of inclusion. There are also some proposals made for the creation of a Christian judicial system. And this is just on the backdrop of the Sharia laws. And so some Christian bodies have come together with a religious group, come together and made a proposal that there should be a judicial system or a judicial set aside for the Christians, and that's to guide with their own beliefs and also help implement some policies and beliefs of the Christian folk. Also, cases of some submissions made for advancement of the electoral process, and some of which is the voting to diaspora, and also they also discuss cases of making it independent and to choose a independent National Electoral Commission, that a panel should be set up, and the panel should different geopolitical zones such that there will be no case of maybe some restrictions or some compromised involved in the electoral process. This will give way for a free and fair and conducted in the country. And there's also been some aspects for the budgeting, and the budgeting, there's been the proposal that there should be a fixed deadline for state governors and the president to make preparations for the appropriation bills, and this should be made within the period of 3 to 6 months. That should also give the governors ample time to prepare and make the appropriation bills available. So there's also been the proposals to revise the derivation formula to include revenues generated internally by state. And remember that just weeks ago, the president had assented to the bills. And so this also brings up questions of the amendment tax reforms bill. So a number of persons are airing their opinion.
Jennifer, I wanted to ask you, what should we look forward to today, day 2, so that we can just, let you focus on the review while I, continue with the conversation. What should we look forward to day 2 today?
Well, day 2 will continue with different proposals and submissions for the committee members. Now, the committee members had mentioned yesterday old proposals that were made. Remember that since 2000, there was also a committee set up for hearing and review of the Constitution. And so these ones have mentioned that they're also keeping the floor open for new proposals. And so a number of persons have already arrived at the location to make their presentations and submit their proposals. These proposals will be reviewed, will be looked into. One of the committee, Senator Siraki, that not end with the submission of those proposals. There should be some collaborative work made by the people who would go back to their stakeholders, their governors, the state houses of assembly, not just rest the Senate committee, but it is the people who would ensure that proposals scale through bills and subsequently be amended in the Constitution. And so that's what we're looking forward to seeing today in Ikorekpene. And also we understand that this public hearing is held with five geopolitical zones across the country. The Northwest was postponed due to the death of an elder statesman, Dan Data.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for this. And we'll definitely be connecting with you across our various programs for you to give us updates. Thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the conversation for you, the viewer, just in case you just joined us. This is the Morning Express, a weekend edition. We're talking about the Constitution Amendment, which is ongoing across regions, except for the Northwest, where it had to be postponed in Kano due to the burial of an elder statesman, Dan Tata. Now, let me go back to Delta State to Barrister Emmanuel Ehiri. Barrister Emmanuel Ehiri, one of the conversations has been on the issue of, decongesting the exclusive legislative list and having some of those things come to the concurrent. I'd ask you again, as we look at the exclusive legislative list, what are areas you think we should, decongest and perhaps bring to the concurrent?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the exclusive legislative lists, the items contained therein are so much that only the federal government cannot actually legislate on. That is why there's clamor that some of the items, like electricity, like labor issues and all that, should be removed from the exclusive to the concurrent, so that both the federal and the states can legislate upon it. Like I already said earlier on, most of these lists in the exclusive list are so much that only the federal government cannot bear the burden. That is why the states have to have a collaboration between the states and the federal government. But if this proposal that are being made, my problem, my only worry is that, like the guest in the studio rightly said, the document that is operating, the Constitution, is a document imposed on us by the military administration. And that is why there's clamor for a brand new Constitution. That would have been achieved under the tenure of President Goodluck Jonathan, if that conference of 2014 that was meticulously held and issues were raised and proposals actually addressed was actually put into the floor for implementation. Then what's happening? That document today, nothing is being said about it. That is to tell you that it is the will of the people that is being subverted. The sovereignty belongs to Nigerians and not to the politicians. Like Riley said, these issues ought to emanate from the bottom to the top, because we are the ones at the grassroots having the impacts, the feelings. We make the proposal to our representatives, because everyone cannot be at Abuja to be a member of the House of Rep or House of Senate. So, but the problem is that when all these public hearings are being carried out, proposals have been made, and at the end of the day, you find out that what has been deliberated or not debated today, or these 2 days that have been scheduled for the public hearing, you find out that what is being enacted is different from what's played out in the public hearing. So that means the exercise of the public hearing and those who have made beautiful proposals have been thrown into the wind, because some persons feel that what is beneficial to them is what should come to play. That is why we still have this issue of alteration time without number. But the implementation of these alterations that have been enacted is nothing to write home about. So why wasting our time for altering a document which was imposed on us, rather than us sitting down and say, no, let us have, for once, a brand new document that we say at the preamble, we the people that is enshrined in the current constitution of Nigeria that is operative, we are not the people that sat down to ensure that these provisions that are being operative are in our own interest. A document will say that the particular chapter which enshrines which encompasses or proposes the social contract that exists between the government and the people, it is tells that it is not justiciable. In other words, those policies that ought to be beneficial to us as Nigerians, the government is saying that if the government fails to implement them, we can't hold them accountable, or we can't compel them to actually carry out those responsibilities. That is the social contract that exists between the government and the people. So if the entire chapter 2 of a document is excluded among other chapters, that it is not justiciable, that we cannot take any action against government for the non-implementation of those policies which are supposed to be in the interest of Nigerians, then how can you say that document emanated from the people, that we the people of Nigeria sat down and we agreed that the document should bind us with an exception? So it is ridiculous that all these proposals, all the reviews that are being made, public hearing carried out, is so painful that at the end of the day, we will still be coming back years to come on this same issue of review. So in my opinion, that let us sit down and think of having a new document once and for all, so that we stop this issue of going back and forth.
Barrister Ahiri.
Issues.
Barrister Ahiri.
Okay. On this deliberation.
Barrister Ahiri, I'll come back to you. Just stay with us. Let me come to Dr. Jude. Dr. Jude, you've listened to the analysis of Barrister Ahiri. One issue that seems to be on the front burner preceding this constitution amendment is the issue of insecurity and the clamor for state police. I'd like to ask your thought on this issue of state police.
If I am to present proposal to the zonal constitutional review hearing, that is one of the things I will put on the table. State policing. Though we need a high level of intelligence to script how they will work, to avoid giving snake to a cobra. In the way that some governors may want to misuse the state police.
But that has always been the fear.
I'm coming, that is the fear. But today, the federal might has been misusing the police in several ways.
How?
There was a DPO of police in one of the states in South, where people were being killed by allegedly the headsmen. And the community went to him. We have pointed out the people that are killing our people. You have not done anything. He told them confidently that there is nothing he can do, because if he do, he will be removed from above. And he asked the people to go and see what they can do to retaliate. Then the police will come in. What does that tell you? We have heard so many stories. Who are this power from above is what we don't want. Those power from above, let's remove the power from them and give it to the people at the grassroots, so that we'll be able to see what we can do to secure our land. Nigeria are not secured now. Are you asking me, is it true that Nigeria are not secured? You have seen yourself that people can't travel again. Even those that doesn't have money to fly, they are flying now, they are borrowing money to fly because the road is no more safe across Nigeria. What is the problem? Police have been overwhelmed. They are willing to work, but sometimes their hands are tied. Look at what is going on in the military. The young man that was declared wanted by the military. Have you listened to the tape, what he's saying? He called them, he mentioned places, mentioned date, mentioned so many things. But the military had not been looking for those things he was mentioned. They were looking for him. I have listened to the tape several times. He mentioned names, mentioned places. But who are the people covering people? That is the problem we have in Nigeria. And that is why I need state policing. so that we'll be able to have our destiny by our hands.
But we already have something like a semblance of state police in Amotekun, Ebubago, and some other states where they've tried to, set up some kind of security architecture. Here in the Kwai, we have something that is supposed to complement the police here, which is the community watch.
That is true, but how limited? They are too limited. Even to some level, the police will not even allow them to function. Look at what happened in Plateau State. They will tell you that when they are attacked, when they mobilize to go and retaliate, then the military and the police will come. But when the attackers will attack them, nobody will come to defend them. When they mobilize to go back, something will happen. Why? Because some people are giving orders somewhere. That is what the monopoly we want to break, so that we have state policing. The state policing will now, in fact, on my own, in order to avoid giving unnecessary power to the governor, let's have geopolitical policing, where we have the Inspector General of Police or AIG controlling the region, independent of the federal level. Then the region now we have commissioners of police, DPO and the rest of them, and area commanders that will be taking order from the person at the regional level, not federal level. Let's manage it from that angle, so that we'll be able to whittle down the power of the governors from taking advantage of the police.
If we say we want to whittle down the influence and powers as feared of the governors to control the state police, don't you think that fear in itself is a threat to the proposal of the state police?
The same thing we are suffering under the federal police. That fear against the governor is the same we are suffering under the federal police. That even the governors, we want to give order to commissioner of police, but the commissioner of police will receive order from above to disregard what the governor is saying. The same fear have existed now. So how do we curb it? Yeah.
I'll come back to you. Barrister Riri, let's come to you here. I want to stick a bit on the issue of insecurity. You alluded to it in your analysis earlier. Is state police the solution or recruitment of more hands or more boots on the ground? Barrister Riri.
Well, I think while the clamor for state police is a welcome development, but I believe that it is not only the police that is the only statutory recognized security outfits in Nigeria to curb insecurity. We have the NSCDC, we have the Army, we have the Navy, we have the Air Force. In fact, we have the Joint Task Force with the sole purpose to see that criminality is brought to the barest minimum, so that Nigerians can have a place to go to and say, yes, I will go home, sleep with my eyes closed. Now, with the introduction of community policing, we see the establishment of local vigilantes who are armed to see that they supplement the police. Like the guest at the studio rightly said, and I agree with him, the infusion or the interference of governors or people detailed above, us above, are what is making the Nigerian police not to be effective. And when these practices continue, you find out that the main purpose of policing or to bring law and order to place will be defeated. Like what happened in Benue State, you can see that killings were going on, and the governor, who is the chief security officer of the state, all he could tell his citizens or Benue State is that if anyone comes to attack you, don't defend yourself. So what he's trying to say that everyone can be killed and is ready to rule dead people. That is not the position. So these citizens of Benue State, what will be their fate when unknown persons come into their domain to attack them? And the governor, who is the chief security officer of the state, have said that they should not defend themselves.
But Barrister Riri, if I may interject you, if we go to states like Ondo, Osun, and some of those southwestern states that operate Operation Amotekun, they have been recording a lot of victories. There is no law that I know of in the country right now that is limiting state governors from having some kind of security architecture. If you look at the gains of the Amotekun in curbing, if you follow what they've been doing, they've made arrests. They've been able to interrupt some of those attacks. Why are states not taking advantage of this to have their own security architecture?
Well, that is a question that the political class could answer. Why is it that some states have introduced security outfits to complement the Nigerian police and it's effective, and that in other states have refused? The governor and the chief security officer of the state, as well as the House of Assembly members, are in a better position to actually answer the question. But the truth of the matter is that the constitution have, like the operative constitution which we are using, section 14 have said that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of its citizens. So if they understand and acknowledge the import of that provision, they need not seek an approval from any other source to see that or ensure that a security outfit is established with the sole aim of protecting its citizens and ensuring that everyone is properly secured within its domain. So I think it's high time the governors of other states will take a clue from Ondo states and other states where a similar security outfit is being operational to complement the effort of the Nigerian police, pending when this public hearing on creation of state policing will be implemented, so that every angle of Nigeria will be fully protected. And when security outfits are made to work without interference for political class, we find out that at the end of the day, every Nigerian will go to his room sleeping and his mind or her mind being at rest. We can move from one place to another uninterrupted, or not thinking of, like my guest already said, even though you fly, when you fly, you can't fly forever. You will get at a point you will step down from the plane and take a vehicle to wherever you are going to. At that point, you are not even secured. So the issue of security should be the paramount list among all the proposals that are being made in this public hearing, so that at the end of the day, we could achieve 80% purpose that yes, this amendment sought to be made, and proposals also submitted to the National Assembly will not be what played out in 2014, so that we can have a focal point to say that Nigerians have a better system of democratic government in place, and we'll be satisfied that yes, President Bola Tinubu under its regime was able to carry out implementations in the interest of Nigeria.
I'll come back to you, Baseriri. Let me come to you, Dr. Jude. Recently, we heard about the forest guards, and that is supposed to provide some complementary effort to securing our forest, where we've heard of reports of attackers running into the forest. If we're asking for state police, does that not also defeat this forest guard that is being proposed, or, you know, that we're beginning to hear about?
Let me give you some example of what is going on, because I'm very, very connected in my local government and I know what is going on. The difference between federal police and state police, they are too wide. The forest guide, the Amotokun and the vigilante we are having in different local government and communities, they don't have the power to prosecute anybody they arrested. When they arrest, they will give to the police. And what we have experienced in the last government in Abia State was that some people that were arrested are handed over to the police. The next 1, 2, 3 days, you see them out. What is happening? Order come from above to release them. The vigilante and the Amotoku, they don't have the power, constitutional power to prosecute. They give them the constitutional power to prosecute. Give them the constitutional power to do certain things. They will be enlarged. And Nigerians don't want it for now. But we Nigerians, the people, want it to be that way. If you have state police, you will give them all the power to prosecute, to arrest, to detain. Those vigilantes, they don't have those powers. That is the difference. You cannot just be being a forest guide when you arrest somebody and you hand over to the police, and the next day the person is released because of order from above. These are the limitations we are fighting about. Sometime last month in Enugu State, something happened in one of the local governments where some people were killed by alleged foreigners invading their community. And the vigilante mobilized and do something to secure themselves. The next day, the deputy governor of Enugu State invited the local government chairman to come and answer question what the vigilante did. And the question was, What did he do when these people were being killed over the months? Now that the vigilante arranged themselves and do one thing or the other, you are asking them to come and explain. Those people that were killing them, why didn't you invite them? Why didn't you do any arrest? Why didn't you do anything? This is the problem we are suffering. So the vigilante, they don't have the power to prosecute. They don't have the power to detain. They don't have the power to arrest.
Okay. We'll leave that.
If they arrest, they will hand over to the police.
Okay. Well, while this conversation for the creation of state police is also one of the most focal points of this ongoing constitution review, which ends today, another aspect is the issue of state creation. I'd like to begin the conversation with you. Okay. The clamor. Over 40 entries have been made for state creation. Yesterday, the Anioma State, which was proposed, received a lot of traction. You heard our correspondent talk about it. State creation. Do we need more states?
There are two reasons why you have the climber from my own angle. Number one reason is this. When the states were created, the people were not taken in consideration. It was done politically. It was done to favor some people. Those that are disadvantaged when the state were created were the one asking for state creation. And if you are the one disadvantaged over another person, for no reason, you will want that injustice to be redressed. So people are asking that those injustices of state creation and local government creation be redressed because they were not consulted, because they were cheated, because so many things went under the bridge, because some people were favored over others. This is number one. Number two, you discover in Nigeria today, development centered on the city, the state capital. The local government, the communities were neglected. When once you take care of the cities, nobody care about the local government and the interior areas. People want the state to be created in their area so that they will benefit from the development. These are the problem we are suffering in Nigeria, that even we, the elite, you judge the governor by what he's doing in the town. Nobody judges what goes on in the communities. How can a community be producing what is keeping the state, and the state don't remember the communities? Some of the community members, they will pass through the river before they can access their farmland. Nobody care of building bridge. Nobody care of building road. Nobody care of giving them water. Nobody care of light and energy. Nobody cares. This is the reason why people are clamoring for state creation, so that it will be an advantage to enjoy the development.
I ask you directly, do we need more states?
We don't really need more states, but we need the injustice to be addressed.
How come?
And in the process of addressing the injustice, there is need for more states.
Okay, hold on. Baisariri, let's come back to you. Very, very fundamental question here on the creation of more states. Should we be talking about inclusivity, which is, for me, largely the clamor, or creation of more states? Baisariri.
Well, the guest rightly said, there are two reasons for creation of states. But why I appreciate his view, my own view, is that at this point in time, the clamor for creation of states is not really necessary. Because the same factor, before Nigeria became 36 states, we were 19, before 21, before it became 36. And these same factors that are necessitating for the clamor of this state creation were there before the states were created to the total number of 36. What I think is necessary at this point in time is for the political class. Like Riley said, most of the developments in the states are centered at the state capital. I think the state capital is the only local government or state, a local government in that particular state, which ought not to be. Development ought to cut across the length and breadth of every state, irrespective of the tribe that constitutes that state. Like in Delta State, for example, Anioma are clamoring for the states, and we see that before this public hearing, that clamor has been on for the past 7 years, championed by Senator Nebroku, to see that Anioma State is created. Well, he has his reasons for the clamor for the creation of Anioma State. But to me, in my own thinking, is that Delta State comprising of 5 ethnic groups, the development that is cutting across Delta State ought to cut across these 5 ethnic groups. so that they can have full representation and the benefits of government. Because like I already said, Section 14 sub 1 said that the principles of democracy are the primary purpose of government before you talk about the security and welfare of the people. So if the social contract as embedded in chapter 2 is really what the politicians are addressed with and they are sincere to implement, because the problem right here is sincerity of purpose. If they campaign to see that as beautiful as their manifestos before the election, what happens to the manifestos implementation after the election? Now the people, the basic things the people need: good road, good water, good lights, access to government facilities, and let there be a peaceful environment for them to thrive in their businesses. Farmers go to farm unhindered and ensure that everyone is well fed. There's food security. If these basic principles are put in place and it cuts across the developmental side, cut across the length and breadth of that particular state, nobody will be clamoring for state creation. But the only problem I have is that despite the clamor for state creation, these same factors that are necessitating the clamor for the state creation will still manifest in those new states that might be created, because a lot of interests would have come into play.
Okay.
So that's my major problem. So creation of state at this level is not really a necessity.
All right.
The issue that those states that are still existing, we should try and ensure that the dividends of democracy is spread across the length and breadth, irrespective of who is at the heads of government and which tribe is actually at the seat of government.
Well, thank you, Barrister Iriri. We'll come back to you. Gentlemen, as we look to round up this conversation, one area of focus also is the proposal for the electoral reforms, proposal seeking to amend the 1999 Constitution to allow for independent candidacy at all levels of election. In this era, this particular period that we're talking about politics and coalitions and everything, here we are looking at electoral reforms and independent candidacy. You share in that proposal seeking independent candidacy. Is that what we should be talking about at the moment?
I don't think it's necessary. What is necessary is political reform. Number one, let the local government election be conducted by INEC, so that you don't have monopoly of state governors.
But there is a proposal to have an establishment by name NILJEC, which is supposed to handle local government elections. I think that has been discussed on the floor of the National Assembly.
Number two, let's have electoral reform where you have electronic transmission of results, so that Nigerians will have confidence that when they vote, their vote counts. And anytime Nigerian votes started to count, politicians will behave, knowing that they will not be able to manipulate the system. Is it impossible to have a good and pure and credible election in Nigeria? It's not impossible. It is possible. Another thing I will want to see is the judicial reform.
That is also being considered.
Yes, judicial reform, a situation where you have dispute, litigation going on for 6 years, for 7 years. It doesn't give us what we are looking for. This is one of the reasons investors don't see Nigeria as a fertile ground to invest, because you will not be able to discharge your litigation within a shortest possible time.
Dr. Jude, I'll come to you. Let me come to you, Barrister Iriri. This proposal seeking independent candidacy, especially in this period that we're talking about coalitions, do you think it should be considered?
Well, the issue of independent candidacy is a welcome development, but the problem is, how are they going to manage the number of persons to be vying for a particular office under the guise of independent candidacy? It will be a cumbersome process and not practicable. What I think the electoral reforms as proposed should be centered on or targeted at is, one, to make INEC really independent. Because INEC is independent in name, but not in action. There are a lot of interferences from the government circle. And while people are clamoring for under the local government autonomy, the local government elections should also be controlled or conducted by INEC. Yes, it's a welcome development, because so many persons in different parties have said that the state independent electoral committees are being manipulated by the governors of various states.
Yes.
So hence, when the local government autonomy was granted to local government, there's a proposal or request that the election should also be managed by INEC as an independent national electoral body. But my problem is this: there are beautiful proposals related to the Electoral Act 2022 being operative to ensure that there is inclusiveness of electronic transmission of results, as rightly pointed out by the guest. That result electronically transmitted will give confidence in the electorates that having gone to the polling booth to cast my vote, my results known at the polling unit should also reflect as the polling center are being transmitted to reflect the wishes of the electorates. So all these are the major reforms that need to be put in place so that the electorates can be confident that the candidates they voted for under any political party emerge the winner and declare the winner at the end of the day. So on the issue of independent candidacy, like you rightly said, and they propose as part of the proposals to the National Assembly, to me, it will not be a practicable reality. They should also continue with the platform of a political party sponsoring a candidate, having declared your interest to contest for any elective position. But again, the only problem most people are having is that the issue of political party being controlled by some political bigwigs who will tell you that it is the candidate they decide to choose that will emerge. These are some of the factors that are necessitating the call for independent candidacy.
Barrister Riri, I was going to ask your parting shot so that we can conclude the conversation, because we're gradually coming to the end of this. There's so much to consider in this ongoing constitution review. But I was going to ask your parting shot. At the end of today, as a Nigerian, what would you be expecting after 2 days?
Yes, my expectation, even though the period of 2 days is, to me, is short, to consider all those proposals as highlighted for the deliberation for the review of the current constitution. The 2-day period is a short period, but however, I don't know how they are going to manage all the deliberations and also to reach out to whatever they have agreed as recommendation to be enacted in as law. My own is that whatever they are deliberating here for the 2-day period should not be a wasted exercise. When our representatives go back to Abuja, they should ensure that those issues that are prioritized, that of important priority, should be enacted and also implemented. Because the problem we're having is implementation. We have beautiful laws in this country, but implementation is our major problem. So the review, threshold, or amendment is not really my problem.
Barrister Riri, it's a fine place to live it there. You've made a very beautiful submission, if you ask me, which will be the icing on the cake of everything you've analyzed. Implementation. The problem is not the laws, implementation. At that point, I'm going to say thank you so much, Barrister Emmanuel Eriri, all the way from Ughelli in Delta State. We'll be looking forward to talking to you again pretty soon. Thank you again, Barrister Eriri. All right, away from Barrister Eriri, let's conclude this conversation with you. After 2 days, which ends today, what will be your expectation of this constitution review?
I know very well that they will not have all the chance to entertain all the proposals, but they will have the opportunity to ask them to submit their proposal, and the National Assembly will now take it back and review it and see what is inside of it. My problem is this: I will want a situation where the National Assembly will be very, very honest to give us what the people want. Now we talk about how to implement them. A situation where some people, because of their position, we want to sideline some views because those people don't have anybody to speak for them, is what I wouldn't want. Let all the views be put on the table and let it be debated until we have the final take on it.
Dr. Jude Onwuhanze has been my guest. He is a political scientist. Thank you so much, Dr. Jude. It was a pleasure having you join in this conversation.
Thank you very much.
This is the point where we say thank you so much for being a part of the journey since we started. It's been very, very wonderful. At this point, I must say thank you to the viewer. Please, please follow us across our social media platform. Connect with us. Let the conversation continue. My name is Ikechukwu Jue. Let's do it again next weekend. Until then, it's bye from here.